हाय गुड इवनिंग। ऑडिबल? माइक ऑन नहीं है यार। ऑन तो नहीं लग रहा मुझे। अब है गुड। करंट अफेयर्स पढ़ना है क्या? आ रहा है क्या एग्जाम में, मेंस वेंस में? आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा है? यस नो आ रहा है। पहले नहीं आता था, ये आता था पहले भी आता था। 19 में भी आया था, 19 में नहीं आया। गूगली they have asked hardly 10% or 15% from current affairs in 2019 बस। एक्सेप्शन ईयर। लास्ट ईयर भी काफी था, उससे लास्ट ईयर भी काफी था। कुछ एक्सपेक्टेड क्वेश्चन ही आ गए थे सीधे सीधे, और कुछ पुराने क्वेश्चन पूछ लिए थे। 2015 बेस ईयर रिवीजन पूछा, कैपिटल अकाउंट करंट अकाउंट का डिफरेंस पूछा, उसके लिए नेशनल फूड सिक्योरिटी एक्ट के सेलिएंट फीचर्स पूछे 2013 वाले। तो समझ रहे हो, 5 साल एक जनरेशन गैप लेके पूछ रहा है वो। सो आ तो रहा है मोटा मोटी। अगर मेरे से पूछोगे जीएस पेपर 1 to 3 में काफी सिग्निफिकेंस है। अप्रोक्सीमेटली 30% के आसपास में आ रहा है करंट अफेयर्स का कंपोनेंट, जो डायरेक्ट आ रहा है क्वेश्चन। फिर आता है स्टैटिक क्वेश्चंस में करंट अफेयर्स का एडिशन। तो जितना भी 465, 365, 565 पे डिपेंडेंट हो, बट वो आएगा जब तक काम हो गया होगा। ठीक है, फिर 800 बनने कैसे पढ़ोगे? एनीवेज, सो आई विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम पहले तो रिलेवेंट टॉपिक्स। इकोनॉमिक्स के रिलेटेड टॉपिक्स कौन कौन से होंगे, पहले मैं स्लाइड बता देता हूं, लास्ट स्लाइड की। सेशन कितने करने हैं, कितना वेटेज देना है, ये रहेगा मॉडस ऑपरेंडी। ओवरऑल वी विल हैव सम 25 प्लस सेशंस, जिसमें से ईएसडी वाले कुछ 8 से 10 सेशन के आसपास में लूंगा। 55 के आसपास में टॉपिक होंगे। टॉपिक लिस्टिंग अभी बताता हूं। फिर पॉलिटी एंड नेशनल एंड सोशल इश्यूज के 7 to 8 सेशंस होंगे। कुछ सेशंस साइनिल लेंगे, कुछ सेशंस दिव्या मैम लेंगे, और कुछ सेशंस मैं लूंगा। नेक्स्ट इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस एंड इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी के सारे सेशंस मैं लूंगा। ऑन एन एवरेज आप समझ लो, इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस के 4 क्वेश्चन आते हैं, इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी के 4 क्वेश्चन आते हैं। 8 में से 6 क्वेश्चन एश्योर्ड आएंगे। पिछली बार कोई था क्या आईएनए में जिसने मेंस लिखा था? अच्छा, तो क्वेश्चन आज लेके आए हैं हम कि कौन कौन से क्वेश्चन एक्सपेक्टेड थे और कौन कौन से आए थे। और फिर ये एनवायरनमेंट, ज्योग्राफी एंड डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट, इसको स्किप नहीं करेंगे यार। ठीक है, जीएस3 में इस बार कितने नंबर आए हैं? कम आए हैं। क्यों कम आए हैं? बिकॉज इको तो संभाल लेते हो, और फिर दिक्कत होती है कि साइंस एंड टेक का करंट अफेयर छोड़ दिया, एनवायरनमेंट का करंट अफेयर छोड़ दिया, एटसेट्रा एंड ऑल, और वो स्ट्रेट अवे क्वेश्चंस हैं। यू डोंट अंडरस्टैंड हिंदी? ओके, एवरी डे पर्सन सिटिंग एट दिस सीट always has the problem of understanding Hindi. ठीक है, you are also from Tamil Nadu? Yeah. You guys need to integrate with mainland India. Anyway, jokes apart. So don't skip that environment and disaster management and science and tech wala part. Okay. Otherwise, in the exam hall, you will end up not attempting 2 questions, and that will lead to less than 90, 85 के आसपास में score. So what you need to focus upon is, ये is a competitive edge. This is something. सेकेंड कॉम्पिटिटिव एजेस जो बाकी सब करके जाते हैं, इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस एंड द इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी वी हैव. सो इन दिस वी कैन हैव अ कन्वर्जन रेशियो ऑफ 80%. इन दिस देयर विल बी अ कॉम्पिटिटिव एज, और बाकी सब तो दैट इज बेसिक मिनिमम हाइजीन ऑफ मास्लो थ्योरी विच यू हैव टू डू. सो आई विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम एक्सपेक्टेड क्वेश्चंस और द कवरेज ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स, 55 क्वेश्चंस, and which all topics I'm expecting this year as the most relevant. I'll start from this, okay? I'll not start from current affairs, significance, questions, etc. and all. Yeah, anybody who is giving 2023? 1. So for candidates who are giving 2023, देखो, if you will ask me what exactly is current affairs is contemporary affairs. Suddenly last year Modi ji came and he said women-led development should be there instead of women development. He gave this statement on the basis of which one question was asked. Today I am going to discuss that. Suddenly, suppose in judiciary, 1 female judge or 2 female judge or 3 female judges became or entered into the Supreme Court. So context will be that, but the representation of women in Supreme Court, the topic remains same from last 5 years. Suddenly there has been a new train, private train which has been operated, I think yesterday or day before yesterday. So there can be a question related to privatization of railway. There can be a question related to infrastructural issues in railway. There can be a question which is related to PPP mode in railway. There can be a question related to railway versus port versus road. So the context remains same only. We need to understand infrastructural issues in ports, infrastructural issues in railways, etc. and all. And then there can be one statement by anybody and then the question can be asked. So context of these 200, 250, 300 topics remains same. Only the statement arrives and the question derives and we call it as the current affairs component. That's it. But otherwise, current affairs is contemporary affairs only. So if candidates who are giving 2023, if you are focused, I will call it as focused only. So you should focus upon these current affairs as well, mains wala part. So first cover these 200, 250 topics, you will get good content which you can finish in 2.5 months and then focus upon writing test series, etc. and all. So who are writing 23 also, don't think that this current affairs will be irrelevant next year. Next year mein aur kar lenge. So the topic NIP, NMP and PM Gati Shakti, I am expecting a question on this triangular relationship between NIP, NMP and PM Gati Shakti Yojana. This is one expected question. लिख लो इसको भाई, इस साल के लिए ही है. Then logistics sector in India, logistic cost is, what is the percentage cost of logistics sector? 14% in comparison to other developed countries having 9 to 10% के आसपास में. This is a common fact then. Okay, we need to have this knowledge of कि logistic cost is 14% for India. And how much we can decrease it? How can we decrease logistic cost in India? By improving the efficiency of infrastructure sector. अब ऐसे जनरल ज्ञान देगा तो कैसे चलेगा? Decrease turnaround time 1 हो गया. Logistic policy, sorry, inland waterway, multi-modal transportation, seamless mode of transportation and leads index. ठीक है. How come cooperative federalism on this? हाँ, dedicated freight corridor and Bharatmala, Sagarmala and all initiative. And one thing which majority of you are missing. And why you are missing? Not Udan, वो तो Bharatmala, Sagarmala, Udan added. Next, what you are missing? And why missing? What तो ठीक है. Why missing is my major cause of concern. Hi, बोलो Bharatmala. Coordination between different ministries, Gati Shakti and पोर्ट क्लियरेंस हो गया सागरमाला में, अंदर कंपोनेंट है उसके. एंड और क्या मिस कर रहे हो सोचो? फ्यूल व्हाट? efficient consumption of fuel we can say, or fuel into GST we can say, right? Okay. And ठीक है, वो बैलेंस मल्टी मॉडल ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में आ गया. एंड नहीं वो तो कंसिक्वेंस है. If logistics will be cheap, then we will be able to connect to the global supply. और क्या होगा सोचो? हो गया भारतमाला, सागरमाला, railways and all. FDI भी हो गया. और सोचो, one major part you are missing. Something related to this. E-way bill. The objective of e-way bill is to decrease the logistics cost by 4 to 5%. अब वो मिस क्यों किया? Because template नहीं है ना माइंड में. Just सोचा यहाँ से आएगा, यहाँ से आएगा, यहाँ से आएगा, यहाँ से आएगा. If you have a template in mind कि on these 20 parameters we have to think. If this parameter is relevant, we'll add. If this parameter is not relevant, we'll skip it. वही करेंगे इसमें. आईने में templates बनाएंगे. जो QEP की 15 थीम है, उसमें एक टैक्सेशन का थीम है. We have कल देखा था ना. So वो 15 themes का नेम याद करना है बस. You just need to cram the name of these 15 themes. And in majority of the questions we'll generate dimensions from those themes so that we don't miss any major dimensions. And we'll do a lot of discussions in class. So logistics वाला expected question है. Then privatization of DISCOM, privatization remains same only. DISCOM करो, railway करो, anything, the topics remain same only. Then railways, road safety, motor vehicle amendment act, 7 years of Sagarmala becomes relevant. Okay. Then Bharatmala project is there, civil aviation Udan is there, affordable housing is there, model tenancy act again is relevant. Then we have banking sector consolidation again is relevant, especially the whole financial market, NBFCs, banking sector, etc. Again, and fintech is also very relevant. Then recapitalization of banks, new bad bank is very relevant. Then we have microfinance, 7 years of Jandan, development financial institutions, DFIs, not a direct question, but indirect question you can expect from DFI. NBFCs, insolvency and bankruptcy code, again very relevant. Pre में question आएगा इस बार in prelims, insolvency and bankruptcy वाला. I don't know, you guys, you attempted, you should tell me. Okay. Then semiconductor industry पे आ सकता है question. Corporate governance can be asked in GS paper 4. Coal sector, tourism sector, two distinction of tourism sector has been mentioned in the economic survey, can be asked, cannot be asked. E-commerce in India, prelims they have asked, can be asked again in mains. Amazon wala one question they have asked, right? Then telecom sector and all, TRAI wala 25th anniversary of TRAI was there, plus AGR issue was there and all, can be asked. India's export, in general export plus agricultural export can be asked. Then we have SCGs, new definition of SCGs has been there. 5 years of startup, very, very relevant. I don't know how many unicorns are there. Every day one unicorn came and then they file bankruptcy. ऐसा ही तो चल रहा है आजकल. Ease of doing business again can be asked. Labor law reforms can be asked. Gig economy, last year they asked, not directly but indirectly can be asked. Last year they asked gig economy versus women, na? No, gig economy and its impact upon Indian society and world society. Oh, empowerment of women they asked. Okay. Then Skill India, कहाँ चला गया skill पता नहीं, but ठीक है. Skill India mission is there. 15th Finance Commission can be asked. Last year they asked 14th. This year 15th Finance Commission recommendations can be asked because due to COVID, 1 year recommendations came, 20 to 21. Now 5 years recommendations came. Every year Finance Commission comes, the year Finance Commission comes, you can expect a question. So 15th Finance Commission again is relevant. Then GST तो favorite है इनका, कभी भी पूछ लेगा वो. Privatization of public enterprises, okay. ये global minimum corporate tax can be directly asked, can be indirectly asked in ethics paper as well. Women in agriculture, very relevant. They have already asked women in agriculture, feminization of agriculture. It's a positive concept or it's a negative connotation? How can you say negative? Why? Elaborate. Why predominantly it is negative? But at least now their work is being recognized. Earlier also they were working, that was not recognized. Now at least we are talking about that, yeah, females are working as labor at least in the fields. So outrightly we cannot say it's a negative connotation. It is having positive connotation, it is having negative connotation. At the end, balance answer likhna. It's not outrightly a negative connotation. Of course, what you said is correct. It's a forced, coercive working chal raha hai. And this feminization of agriculture is not like you are giving assets to the female, land, ownership, etc. and all. वो सब नहीं हो रहा है. Only as a labor force they are working. Agricultural farm पूछ भी सकता है, नहीं भी पूछ सकता, depending upon. National Mission edible oils can be asked. Earlier we refused Malaysia, we will not import. Now they said we will not export. खेल रहे हैं दोनों. International years of millet, very, very relevant. Very, very, very. 2-3 V कर लेना इसमें. Organic farming, horticulture, dairy sector, etc. and all. Indian fisheries, food processing. 2 साल से पूछा इसने, can be asked again. Food processing. Indian agricultural export. 5 years of Fasal Bima Yojana can be asked. 30 years last year also they have asked, can be asked indirectly again. And this RBI policy dilemma, inflation versus growth trade-off. So these are certain expected topics this year. Although we will cover this full 55, 60, 65 topics. If some new topics will come, I will cover more. But yeah, these are some 20, 25 topics which are must. We will cover all, but these are must do topics. You don't have the luxury to skip those topics. Okay? Chalo, let's start from ऐसे फोटो चेंज नहीं होती. देखा कभी टीचर्स की फोटो चेंज होता है? जवानी के दिन है यार, कैसे चेंज करेंगे बताओ. कुछ कुछ तो एनालिसिस है, कुछ किया जाता है एनालिसिस. ऑल्दो बोथ मीन्स ऑल ऑफ अस नो द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ करंट अफेयर्स, But just to show ki this is what the weightage of current affairs we have, 48%. So as we can see, paper 2, paper 3. A lot of weightage directly of the current affairs that we have. सीधा फिर question पे आते हैं. Except in 2019, exceptional year, GS2, GS3, lot of contemporary context-based, current affairs-based questions. This was the IR wala, I think. I was expecting at least 1 or 2 students. So these are certain analysis of international relations I did, same for the internal security I did. Ki these many questions UPSC is asking from neighborhood, extended neighborhood, Western power, policy, institutions, region, regional group and the diaspora based questions. And then some expected based questions किया था, AUKUS किया था, QUAD किया था, SCU का तो direct question I discussed. In class answer writing वगैरह हुआ था उसका. This is what India Afghanistan वाला questions expected था. So there are in international relations and internal security, वो जो 8 क्वेश्चन आएंगे उसमें से अपने को 6 पहले से कर लेना है. At least 6 should be covered in the class. That will help in 2 ways. First, 5-7 नंबर एक्स्ट्रा आ जाएगा, and second, confidence आएगा during the exam hall if you find certain questions. So this was the question which I expected, which I discussed in the class. What is SCO? Potential opportunities and challenges with reference to India in with respect to the joining of SCO. And the question which came was, critically examine the aims and objectives of SCO and what is the importance it holds for India. So the moment you will see a question which you have covered in test series or in class answer writing will boost your confidence in the exam hall. Content तो कर लोगे, but that confidence also matters. You will be able to innovate a lot. ये ऑकस फोकस हो गया. अब देखना है कि suppose these were the questions which they asked from current affairs. CGI gave a statement actually related to judiciary. So now when we are covering women representation in judiciary to ensure diversity, equity, inclusiveness, etc. and all the topics which we can expect in judiciary we are going to cover together. So judicial accountability and transparency, RTI, CGI now comes under RTI. Then contempt of court, what is the need of contempt of court, what all are the concerns related to this, judicial activism, overreach, suppression of power, article 50 we have, tribunals, again an expected topic on tribunals, okay, this year. Then public interest litigations, PIL, a critical analysis, it's good for the society, it is bad for the society, AIGS, All India Judicial Services and Gram Nyayalayas. So when we are going to cover one topic related to judiciary, we are going to cover these 6-7 topics which are related to judiciary. Pressure group, every year you can expect a question on pressure group, but pressure group to static hai na. What question which they have asked, so different types of pressure groups, directly pressure groups, indirect pressure groups we have, and how the business association, this is new. One new type of pressure group is the business associations which are being created. So how, or the contribution of business associations to frame the public policies, both positive as well as negative. Then USA is facing an existential threat in the form of China that is much more challenging than the erstwhile Soviet Union. So in international relations related questions, template banana padega. So this can be a good template for all the international relations related questions. Ek ho gaya economic. So economic hegemony of China versus USA with respect to Russia, 1 point we have generated. Second ho gaya connectivity. So China has been 19 या 20 neighboring countries है, USA का neighboring countries बहुत कम है. That can be the second point. Direct contact चल रहा है. People to people relationship that we have is, so China is now focusing upon the soft skill, Chinese culture and all these things that they are promoting. Then we have technology. So future technologies पे focus कर रहा है. They have a new 2025 in which they are focusing upon new technologies or future technologies. Then strategic significance, security significance, etc. So we will create one acronym of this, and the same template we will use for any relationship of India versus other country versus other country. So in such question we need to create some templates and we need to practice those templates. नहीं तो फिर एग्जाम में क्वेश्चन आएगा, फिर उसमें टाइम लग जाएगा. CBI वाला expected भी था. Then we have SCO, civil societies and NGOs. GS2 first part that we have na, social justice wala part. We can predict some questions from that section as well. International relations we can predict, and that section we can predict some questions. Abhi bhi late hi aata hai to. These are certain questions from GS paper 3. Difference between computing methodology of GDP before 15 and after 2015. How many of you have attempted this question in a very good way? Capital budget and revenue budget difference. Last year, one diagram बनाया था? हाँ, बनाया था. Tell me the components of capital budget. Revenue and expenditure. कहाँ चल रहे हैं अपन? बजट में करंट एंड कैपिटल कब से आने लगा? Good morning. Check it. Anyway, again, this is a very basic question here. These are some simple questions which, again, just like prelims in mains, we cannot expect कि they are not our strong areas. So वो basic हैं, वो करना ही पड़ेगा अपने को. We have budget. सुनो. Don't get budget, receipt and expenditure. Receipt divided into revenue and capital. Expenditure divided into revenue and capital. Receipt में revenue, tax receipt, non-tax receipt. Tax 5 types, etc. फिर जो capital receipt that we have divided into asset and liability वाला part. Borrowings आ गया, disinvestment आ गया, etc. and all. And for expenditure part, revenue में to state, subsidies, defense, etc. and all these things. और वो capital expenditure. Anyways. So these are certain direct current affairs based questions which they have asked. V-shape recovery expected question था they have asked. इसमें extra जो QEP help करेगा ना वो V-shape recovery and what is K-shape recovery. Side box बना के डाल सकते हैं etc. So we need mix of both QEP and INA actually. In static also we need to add current and current also we need to add static वाला portion. So application of current affairs can be through 4 ways. A question which is 100% static. I'll show you. You got in a 100% static based question. Second, 100% current affairs based questions. V-shape recovery wala question tha 100% current affairs based question. Static with current component and current with the static component is there. So these are the 4 different permutation and combination. For example, static question. Women in post-independence India have excelled in various fields. The social attitude towards women and feminist women has been patriarchal. Apart from women education and women empowerment. Now don't think in the exam hall that empowerment itself includes education. उसने लिख दिया. The question which they have already given to you. Now don't challenge the question or the intellect of UPSC that the question is wrong. Although technically empowerment includes education, but now they have given accept it. So apart from women education and women empowerment schemes, what interventions can help changing this? So this was the question which they have asked. We know women empowerment chahiye, patriarchal chahiye, etc. and all. Static based question hai, but unfortunately Modi ji ne bol diya tha. Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi has recently emphasized that India is transitioning from women development to women-led development. So first of all, we require the definition of women empowerment. वो यहाँ पे डाल दिया. Then significance of women-led development. This we covered in the class. Then we have driving factors of women-led development. Combination of. So the question which they have asked other than education and empowerment. So ये छोड़ दो education वाला part. Empowerment वाला part भी छोड़ दो. Enabling ecosystem बाकी कर लेंगे. Financial inclusion, entrepreneurship, capacity building in terms of nutrition and health, decline in gender bias in the voting, public policies, inclusion, adequate social security. यहाँ से dimension आ जाएगा यार. Question static है, but because somebody just gave a speech, so we covered in the class. So that we asked. That is true. Empowerment means choice. Empowerment in anybody with socio optional. Empowerment means वो ऐसे खड़ा नहीं करेगा, वो फर्स्ट सीट पे बैठता है तभी बात करता है, बस वहाँ चुप रहता है. Empowerment means in sociological terms agency. That means choice. So choice in any field, choice in education, choice in health, choice in political sphere, choice in entrepreneurship, choice means anything. That is a concept. But the problem is now they have already asked. अब क्या करेगा? तो सब इंक्लूड कर लेना सबको. क्या ही दिक्कत हो रहा है? Add everything. Whatever you think like related to that, just add it. Because if you will ask a professor about this question is wrong. But exam में लिख के तो नहीं आएगा ना. You have to attempt the question. Marks ले लेते हैं. ऐसे भी UPSC is not going to accept that the question is wrong. उसमें नहीं जाएंगे. नो नो, दैट प्रेजेंट वाला जो कंटेक्स्ट रहता है वो तो लिखना ही लिखना है, मतलब दैट इंक्लूड्स 1/3 ऑफ द फर्स्ट पेज, दैट इज फाइन, we cannot remove that particular thing, but the main part of the question remains this, that apart from women education and women empowerment schemes, what interventions can help change this below? So new suggestions that you have to give, plus before giving the suggestions the government intervention we can write. कल जो डिस्कस कर रहे थे ना अपन कि what all steps has already been taken, वो छोटा सा बॉक्स बना के उसमें 3-4 points we can write that these are the steps which the government has already taken and these are the steps which are required excluding education and empowerment. Again, the whole purpose of explaining you this is that this is not current affairs wala part. This is a static topic, patriarchal, women empowerment, women education, etc. Just because the Prime Minister gave a statement, it becomes current affairs. That's it. This one more question, critically examine the aims and objectives of SCO. What importance does it hold for India? Static ही तो है, क्या ही current है, 20 साल से member हैं मैं यार इसके. It becomes a static topic. But just because 21st year complete हो गया था, meeting हुआ था, मोदी जी हुआ था, etc. and all, तो current affairs बन गया वो. So again this become a static topic. So SCO summit major context was this. SCO का definition दे दिया, main goals of SCO which they have asked. Opportunities for India क्या है, key challenges for India क्या है, way forward क्या है. So in just one sheet we'll get all the relevant content. एक डायग्राम बना के आएंगे SCO का. कितने मेंबर हैं? 5 तान्स या 4 तान्स? 4 तान्स. ठीक है. Then we have some toppers approach क्या है, किस वे में ऐड कर रहे हैं, etc. and all. Why has there been no significant reform in the agriculture sector in the past few decades, even when a broad consensus exists that farming is becoming non-remunerative and unsustainable? So you need to write some facts, some current affairs based component, maybe in the introduction or in the body in such questions. डाल देंगे यहाँ पे कितना परसेंट शेयर है, everybody knows 45% employment provide कराता है, 20% GDP contribute करता है, which signifies the question itself that there has been no significant reform in agriculture sector in India in past few decades, even when a broad consensus exists that farming is becoming non-remunerative and the unsustainable sector. फिर आता है current topic, triangular relationship, a new tri-national partnership AUKUS जो question आया था is aimed at countering China's ambition in Indo-Pacific region. Is it going to supersede the existing partnerships in the region? So we should know which all partnerships are there in the region and discuss the strength and impact of AUKUS in the present scenario. The question can also be AUKUS versus Quad or AUKUS versus SCO, AUKUS versus RIC, AUKUS versus BRICS, कुछ भी question आ सकता. So this was how we covered AUKUS, key concerns for area, positives for India, etc. and all. Then a static topic with current component. Examine the rationale behind introduction of MSP in agriculture sector. नया तो नहीं है, MSP is there since 60s. वो तो static हो गया. In your opinion, can legalizing MSP provide a solution to address woes of the farmers in India? ये current हो गया. That was the demand of the farmer protest. One of the demand was, after the government decided to repeal the act, the next demand was give it a legislative or legalize MSP. So this legalizing MSP is current. First wala part, the rationale behind MSP is the static. So static plus current ka combination based questions can be there. So simple ho gaya. In introduction, if you know, then only we can write that the question is static MSP, rationale behind MSP and the legalizing the MSP. One of the type of introduction can be the need of MSP from last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. If we have the fact, we can write this fact based introduction that in last 10 years or 15 years or 20 years for rice and wheat, this much has been increment in the MSP value, but only if we have the facts. That is what the significance of facts. But ऐसा आंसर लिखोगे तभी सृष्टि शर्मा बनोगे. So you should remember if you have some knowledge of facts, वरना तो फिर देखना पड़ेगा. 280% and 230% rise in the past decade, highlighting the centrality in the farm sector discourses in India. So if we have the facts, simple हो जाता है. But again, that depends. उसके अलावा भी लिख सकते हैं हम. ठीक है, कंपोनेंट लिख दिया, लीगलाइजिंग एमएसपी, हैव पॉजिटिव्स, नेगेटिव्स एटसेट्रा. तो यहाँ वाले में करंट अफेयर्स बेस्ड क्वेश्चन आ जाएगा. One more question can be current affairs topic with static component is in the light of emergent situation such as recent pandemic, discuss the significance of principle of federal supremacy and justify by giving suitable example. So here though you have to write suitable examples from the current affairs part only, you don't have the option. मतलब यहाँ तो लिखना ही लिखना पड़ेगा आपको. Present वाला question, every year they are asking one question, centralizing tendencies in the cooperative federalism structure or the structure that we have is, लिख लेंगे. Again this question is a mix of static and current affairs. कैसे? First part is these two things, three new things, NIP, NMP and Gati Shakti. But the next part of the question is how these initiatives can address the critical issues plaguing the infrastructure sector in India. So the challenges of infrastructure sector is static. We all know what all are the challenges, but how they are going to resolve it is the current affairs linked with the static component. You see, वो ऐसे बंद नहीं होता. There is one app also ना, कौन बच्चा था वो जो ऐप से बंद करता था, आता है ना? Sorry, हाँ मतलब वो स्पेसिफिक फोन में आता है या ऐप बेस्ड है? विच फोन? चाइनीज. अच्छा, वो मोदी जी ने बैन लगा दिया, बहुत बढ़िया. एनीवेज ठीक है, छोटे छोटे डायग्राम है यार, यदि स्मॉल स्मॉल माइक्रो डायग्राम्स. वी नो सेंटर का, स्टेट का और प्राइवेट सेक्टर, देयर कंट्रीब्यूशन इन NIP, how much funds they have to give, 39%, 39% and 22%. You could have normally written that is also a possibility, and drawing a small diagram is also a possibility. It varies marks कैसे fetch करना है, how we can fetch the marks. पसंद आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है? गलत बना हुआ है, कमियां तो निकाल ही लेते हैं अपन पहले, ऐसा होता है. See, his concern is that this 22% का जो पार्ट है रेडियस एंड ऑल है वो थोड़ा ज्यादा है, 39% का कम है, ऐसा है. आई विल सेंड योर मैसेज टू श्रुति, क्या किया बेटा, गलत काम है सब. ओके, एनीवेज वी कुड हैव ड्रॉन दिस पार्ट ऑफ द पीपीटी इन द आंसर. ये वाला तो कर नहीं सकते हो, ऑप्शन नहीं है तुम्हारे पास. But yeah, because the question is specifically related to NIP, NMP and the PM Gati Shakti trinity of complementary initiatives. So we could have drawn a triangular relationship. ये simple वाला, that NIP में क्या है, identified the social and economic infrastructure. NMP में क्या है, PM Gati Shakti क्या है. And then rather than, because this diagram was for balancing ease of living and ease of doing business and finally making a $5 trillion economy. That was the topic which I was covering, that these three things will help making India a $5 trillion economy. Now the question is, these three things are must to resolve the static problems of infrastructure. So instead of this last part, ऊपर वाला सब ठीक है, instead of this last part we could have written to resolve the infrastructure deficit in the country. वो कर सकते हैं हम. So that is real time में बनाना पड़ेगा, but this becomes a template that these three are complementary to each other. Again, for example, a question related to energy sector. अब डिस्कॉम का क्वेश्चन आए, इंडिया बिकेम एनर्जी सरप्लस क्वेश्चन आए, और इंडिया ट्रांसमिशन एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का क्वेश्चन आए, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन कम्स. This is what a simple diagram will be. A question can also be smart metering related question can be there, open access related questions can be there, smart grid related question can be asked, and a number of type of questions can be asked. बस this simple diagram, simple है बताएंगे, it can be drawn. How? जनरेशन होगा, जनरेशन के बाद से जनरेशन प्लांट्स होंगे, ट्रांसमिशन यूटिलिटीज में जाएगा एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में जाएगा. फ्रॉम डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन टू ऑप्शंस, बिग बायर will have access to open access, otherwise you have to open from the this distribution utilities means discoms, distribution companies. Question can be privatization of discoms can also be asked. So ये supply chain का तो common diagram हो गया. Any energy related question can be asked, we can draw this diagram. Then comes challenges of electricity sector or energy sector can be asked, challenges of discoms can be asked. So supply chain का simple diagram, this can be there. Simple ही है ये, trust me. Generation के challenges can be asked separately. Transmission and distribution challenges can be asked separately. A supply chain problem can be asked. Discom के challenges can be asked. Generation के problem can be asked. India is a coal surplus but still facing energy deficiency can be asked. So in all such type of questions, this diagram will help us to generate the points. So n number of sources you cannot refer, trust me. You have to limit your number of sources and you need to revise. At least if you will ask me, at least 5 or 6 revisions of QEP and 4 or 5 revisions of INA is must. People have done it. I will ask some of them in the month of July, SMB Vimika video dekhna and all this thing. You have to repeat the content which is available. More and more content if we will refer, problem aayega. So the same, we have to hardly write 150 words or 250 words. How many of you have written mains? पता है ना एग्जाम हॉल में क्या होता है? We have lot of content. The problem is क्या लिखें? या तो पेपर फिनिश नहीं होता है. So the template needs to be ready. अगर template ready नहीं है तो फिर problem है यार. Other ways of using the current affairs, coastal sand mining, whether legal or illegal, poses one of the biggest threats to the our environment. Election आने वाले हैं क्या? बाय इलेक्शन हो रहे हैं राघव चड्डा के, पता नहीं, मतलब आधा इंफॉर्मेशन रखता है. Analyze the impact of sand mining along the Indian coast, citing the specific example. Now the question again is demanding specific examples. तो वो लिखना ही पड़ेगा. कर्नाटका में ये चल रहा है, केरला में ये चल रहा है, यहाँ पे ये चल रहा है, कोरल ब्लीच चल रहे हैं, this etc. So in certain questions, the question demands examples. So you don't have any other option in such cases. ठीक है. This again they have asked elaborate with examples. Misuse of social media has emerged as a new threat to the internal security of the country. I think इसी साल का question होगा ये. So these questions can be asked. Anyways, the whole purpose of explaining this is that there is a weightage of current affairs. Don't skip current affairs का part. मतलब 19 में I agree there was no question. 20 में भी मान सकते हैं that they gave less focus. But in 21 they have asked questions from current affairs. In pre also in last 2 years they are asking current affairs. So there is a weightage of current affairs. The problem arises when we are stuck at 80-85. उसके ऊपर ले जाने के लिए we cannot afford some, because current affairs में problem क्या है? Either we know or we don't know. वो उसकी स्टैटिक की तरह नहीं है, पॉइंट्स जनरेट कर लेंगे एंड ऑल, वो वाला पार्ट नहीं होता. इसमें आता है या फिर नहीं आता. साइबर डोम पढ़ा है या नहीं पढ़ा है, बीच का नहीं चलेगा उसमें, उस वाले पार्ट में. So these are certain things. Also, these are things which we are going to cover, these topics, contemporary topics and all these things. Also from last, every year I take feedback from some of my selected candidates. So for INA I got a feedback कि sir जो content है that is fine, but they were expecting some 300 or 400 question topics in the form of questions and their model answers only in maximum 250 words. समझ में आ रहा है? Then I gave a listing of one sheet having some 1500 words or so जो आप पढ़ते हो, then you have to make some short notes out of it, etc. and all these things. So they suggested me, sir, if you can provide those 300 or 350 or 400 questions, but maximum in 250 words. उससे ऊपर नहीं होना चाहिए. Otherwise it will become very difficult. So as they suggested, we have implemented it for every paper. GS 100, GS 200, 300, 4 maybe 100 के आसपास में, और 80 questions etc. That will be something new which you will get. आज शायद नहीं मिला होगा, from next part में मिल जाएगा आपको कि how for every topic or every question 1 page. Max 250 words is there which we are producing. 6-7 points, 6-7 points. It means 12 to 13 points in 10 marker question and 17-18 points in a 15 marker question. That will be, you can say, a summary of INA ka component plus some other topics which I think are relevant. This is what 300 most important topics for GS 1, 2, 3, 4 भी इसमें add करेंगे, ठीक है? This will be in the form of booklet which you will get around 10th to 15th of July, so that you will have enough 2 months to revise those notes etc. and all. इस फॉर्मेट में मिलेगा यार वो, ठीक है? इसको थोड़ा और छोटा छोटा कराने का बोला. व्हाट इज हीट वेव, एग्जामिन द फैक्टर्स रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर दिस शिफ्ट इन द करंट ऑफ द हीट वेव्स इन इंडिया. सो बेसिक अप्रोच क्या होगा, छोटा सा मैप बना दिया. मैप अच्छा तो नहीं बनाया, टिल्टेड है, बट एग्जाम में भी ऐसा ही बनाओगे आप. एंड देन हीट वेव का बेसिक कंसेप्ट बता दिया, शिफ्ट ऑफ हीट वेव्स, फैक्टर्स रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर हीट वेव्स एंड द वे फॉरवर्ड. एक पेज में फिनिश, मैक्स इतने वर्ड्स में चलेगा. सो दिस इज व्हाट समथिंग न्यू विच वी हैव included. 15 marker question आया etc. and all. So this is something new, how we can draw a map. The whole objective is some of these answers will be handwritten by this year. This new there is a trap when you start taking classes. There is a trap is even when you are selected still you get associated with me. उन्होंने सजेशन दिया, ऐसा होता है ना, when you will enter into services as an SDM you will give lot of suggestions to your DC. Then what DC will do? They will ask you to implement those suggestions. So when you will become ADC you will stop giving suggestions. और DC बनने के बाद तो सजेशन जीरो हो जाता है. So ऐसा नहीं करना है. जब तुम सिलेक्शन में जाओगे तो सजेशन तुम्हें देने हैं, नेक्स्ट ईयर करना तुम्हें ही होगा, ठीक है. सो ये सजेशंस की कॉपीज वही कराने हैं. एनीवेज, अब व्हेन यू गॉट सेलेक्टेड तो स्टार्टिंग इनिशियल 15-20 डेज बिजी रहते हो. अभी वो ज़्यादातर बच्चे हनीमून पीरियड चल रहा है, बिजी चल रहा है. फ्रॉम 1 जुलाई ऑनवर्ड्स आई आस्क देम टू गिव यू द मेंटरशिप. सेशन कराना हो, स्पेसिफिक सेशन कराना हो, अप्रोच कराना हो, एटसेट्रा एंड ऑल. ठीक है, फिर दिस इज हो गया फिनिश. और बताओ इसके अलावा एनी अदर डाउट्स, क्वेश्चंस? नो डाउट्स, नो क्वेश्चंस अदर देन स्पीक इन इंग्लिश. विच पार्ट ऑफ तमिलनाडु यू आर फ्रॉम? सॉरी, अच्छा, ईरोड. एनीवेज, एनी अदर डाउट्स? फिर मिलते हैं बालक. प्लीज डू इट, मेक 350 क्वेश्चंस फॉर GS मेंस. और किसके लिए बना रहे हैं? इसीलिए बना रहे हैं. ठीक है बेटा, ओके.